The following podcast contains spoilers for The Mandalorian.
You must reunite it with its own kind.
You expect me to search the galaxy for the home of this creature?
This is the way.
This is the Bunzerelli Show.
Amazing second season of The Mandalorian. They're throwing left and right and everything, but they seem to stay focused on the focal point, and they brought, I don't know about Din Djarin's journey, but they definitely brought, like, the season's journey to a close. Of course, here joining me is Khiim. Thanks so much for being on the show, buddy.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad to be here.
Khiim, without getting too far ahead, because we're going to get everywhere, what were your initial feelings about the episode as a whole?
I would say it was a good happy medium. There could have been more. Yeah, there could have been more, but that maybe I'm just being picky, but it wasn't bad by any means.
Well, let's get through it. We open up. We got Dr. Pershing being chased by Boba Fett. We got that little standoff with Cara Dune and the soldiers. They start talking about Alderaan. Once again, like they did with as far as like the last episode, they kind of like show like the Empire's point of view and the soldiers' point of view and everything. You know, it's just interesting because, yes, you could say like the Emperor's evil and the Sith are evil, but the actual Empire is not Sith. You know what I'm saying? You know, they're just like, you know, whatever. There's guys with jobs. They're soldiers. They believe in like the government. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Two Mandalorians walk into a bar, Boba Fett and Din Djarin. They walk in and they got the face off with the other Mandalorians, big Mandalorian party, Bo-Katan, and the other Mandalorians, and they're throwing a lot of stuff, a lot of Mandalorian information around, and it's like Boba's throwing some, you know, Mandalorian stuff in their face. They're throwing some stuff in Boba's face about being a clone. So it's like a little bit of tension, but it's more of like an exposition than a tension, I've found. I think Din Djarin's starting to learn a little bit more about his creed. Like, and it kind of folds out through the episode, but I think he's kind of learning about like the bigger world. And like his creed to him isn't the, I don't think it's the end all be all that he thought it was.
There's just a lot more. The Mandalorian goes a lot deeper than what he was raised in.
It's not as cut and dry as he always like thought of. Like his creed was always like all he knew. Of course, Bo-Katan's all about this Darksaber. That's her main reason for getting involved. And Din Djarin's like way beyond everything, way beyond his creed, way beyond his focus is on Grogu and rescuing Grogu. So he's like, let's toss all that side. I don't care. Everybody can take whatever they want. I don't care. Still kind of question about Dr. Pershing because I don't really understand. I mean, you know, I don't think we're going to see him again, but it was like, you know, he tried to help Baby Yoda the first time, or Grogu, and he was trying to like, you know, keep him safe. But I guess since they were able to extract the blood without killing him, but there was never like, we got past the point of like, what do you want with him? Like, what do you want? What are you doing with him? You'd think that would be a question they would ask. As the audience, we kind of just know. We put the pieces together ourselves. Like, we're just saying, like, okay, this is, you know, they're working towards either Snoke or the Emperor's Return. We're bleeding into Force Awakens. But just kind of like a little bit of the who's, how's, and whys. And we'll speed ahead. You know, we'll get to it at the end. But that's where I thought there was going to be another season of Grogu. I didn't think it was going to end here. I didn't think the story was going to end at this point, but maybe it's best because how long could he run around with baby Grogu? You know what I'm saying? But tell me if you noticed this. Did the for some reason, because when they make their like entrance onto the starship, and like the TIE fighters are being deployed. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's a little nitpicky because it's a ship we've never seen before. It's very reminiscent of the old Republic ships, that starship, Moff Gideon's Imperial cruiser. But it was like, I always remember TIE fighters just sprawling out of a ship in big bunches. But maybe it's because the only time I've seen it happen is from the Death Star, or maybe I'm not remembering correctly. But I don't remember TIE fighters ever coming out one by one like that. You know what I'm saying? you could almost say it's like a problem with the model or something, or what it was like, maybe it was just the way that one, you get a car and like, okay, this one runs on diesel. It's like one of those things. It's like this particular model, it was discontinued because it releases the TIE fighters very like slow. You know what I'm saying? We get to they blast away into the ship. Didn't get short change on the Dark Troopers. I mean, they were smacking the hell out of the old Din Djarin there. Once again, Beskar, being the adamantium of Star Wars, like that robot was straight like slamming his head into the wall. His helmet was fine. I actually watched it a third time today because the first time I watched it, well, I'll tell you the truth. Every episode I go one way or the other. I'm either going to watch it and just enjoy it and then watch it again and take my notes, or sometimes for time management, I'll watch, take my notes like this. I woke up this morning like I'm going to watch it and soak it in, then watch it again, take my notes. The second time around, I noticed something like, okay, his helmet was fine, but they dented the hell out of that wall behind him. It's like that wall behind him was like freaking buckling. We got our Gideon versus Mando. That happened with the spear. And, but that's another thing, because I thought it was going to be a little more epic than that. I thought it was going to be like, I don't know, that maybe, and I kind of see where you're going with this, because like, I don't know. I thought that was going to be like the last scene of the last episode was going to be that fight. And it just was like, I don't know.
Kind of Gideon. I thought somebody was going to have a showdown with Gideon.
Yeah, it just, I don't want to say it was anticlimactic. It just kind of happened and the ship was kind of empty. It just was like, I don't know. Oh, of course, Boba Fett books, and good thing he did, because that'll come into play later with a big part of the scene. But Gideon versus Mando, Spear versus Darksaber. Now, Mando overtakes the Darksaber. And then it's kind of funny because Moff Gideon kind of took this point where he was like kind of narrating the whole thing. And he was like, it was exposition because somebody had to do it. But he was like, she can't take it. She has to win it by battle, which is a little weird because I could swear in the Clone Wars that Sabine Wren straight up handed it to her at one point. Yeah. I am pretty positive. I mean, a little discontinued. It didn't bother me. It just seemed like, well, it leaves a problem for the future. Because, like, what? Is Bo-Katan just going to, like, because if Bo-Katan goes to fight the Mandalorian, he's going to be like, I don't care, take it. So, like, what? There's nothing climactic there. I don't know how that's going to develop. See, I thought it was going to be him grabbing the Darksaber. It was going to be the big ending of the whole series. And, like, he's the leader of Mandalore. And then,
you get your shot and everything.
Yeah, and it's just... Yeah, that the dark. I don't want to say the show was anticlimactic, but the Darksaber thing was anticlimactic. I thought it was gonna be end all be all, and he was gonna rule Mandalore and it'd be like no problems. Instead, it was more like an inconvenience for him. Yeah. All right, they got the Dark Troopers pounding on the walls. We got the sense of danger because once again, Moff Gideon's explaining the whole show to us. He's like, we know how you did against one. The X-wing comes in, so. I want to break this down step by step because there was like slow moments of the reveal. First, the X-wing pulls up. So you're like, okay, it's a new. Really, my first instinct was the New Republic. Like, okay,
one was gonna come in, and she's like, oh great, they sent an X-wing, and then I thought a fleet was gonna come in afterwards.
One of them, and I thought like, oh, just one, and then like, they were all gonna come out of light speed, and it didn't happen, and then. But then the first part was Grogu's ears going up. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then even with the hood, because I'm like, are they throwing us for a loop? Did Ahsoka somehow where would Ahsoka get an X-wing? The big giveaway was the green lightsaber.
Yeah, once I saw the lightsaber, because you saw the hooded figure, and I was like, okay. Yeah. So Ahsoka made it to the ship, but once you saw that green lightsaber, you're just like, yep, I know who that is.
Yeah, the green was the first giveaway, and they go down, and all of a sudden, then you get the black glove, and exactly. We're going to go through the scene, but when I'm watching it, and I see Luke's face, I'm like, There's something, and I didn't say something off like, oh, that looks crappy. Like, it wasn't like Leia or like, oh, the CGI. But what happened was when I saw his face, I was like trying to dissect, like, something's off. Because obviously it wasn't, and I'm like, because I was expecting Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
I was expecting him. And I'm like, he looks off, because he looks off for Sebastian Stan. So I'm like, what? I can't tell. I can't tell that they totally CGI. It's like, he looks good, but there's something, because obviously it's not Mark Hamill, in his 60s, but I watched the credits, and it goes in order of appearance, boom, 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 Mark Hamill. It was freaking Mark Hamill with the aging technology. And then I followed, because I've been following Mark Hamill on Twitter. He said something like, hey, I'm working on a project I'm excited to be a part of, but I can't talk about it right now. And really, I assumed it was something like he was voicing a Clone Wars thing. Mark Hamill could be anything. He could be doing an animated Batman movie or something.
Exactly, yeah.
But they, and I'm picturing it too, because and I want to go back to the scene, but the important thing is because we know Mark Hamill, he backpedaled a little bit, but he was not happy with the portrayal of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. He was just like, this ain't the Luke I know. Like, this isn't. And you have a bunch of arguments because it's pretty split. Some people are thinking it's genius. Some people are thinking it's, what did you do? But he himself was like, he's a steward of that character, and he's like, I don't like this. Basically, he didn't flat out say it, but you could tell, and he would backpedal, and he would kind of, because he still didn't want to make studios mad or insult anybody, but he clearly wasn't happy. And I could picture the conversation he had with Jon Favreau. He's like, this ain't gonna be no Last Jedi BS, right? And it totally wasn't, dude. I mean, Luke got his hallway scene. He got his hallway scene. And those battle droids, you saw how menacing it was. That was the important part, how everybody was scared of these droids. It looked like an imminent end, and Luke just kind of
to him like butter.
Yeah, it's easy with and not even just ease, but just like smoothness, like slow and calculated, like just freaking. Yeah, and it was Luke. It was, you could say that's like Return of the Jedi Luke with 10 years on him, which it was. He's just a master Jedi. He's at the top of his game. So he finally does reveal the Mandalorian. You see his face. So he's talking to Mando. You can tell Mando's kind of like, okay, it's time to go, kid, and everything. Luke needs, and of course, Mando removes his helmet, which was fine, because what it really meant was Mando cared about this one thing. And it's not even about the episode before where the guy was like, okay, back against the wall and everything. I think it's more or less like Mando's starting to realize, and that might be an interesting turn for him in the future. Is like, I don't know what culture I belong to. I don't even know what Mandalore is real anymore.
An identity crisis?
Yeah, kind of, because he's a sneeze away from being Bo-Katan, and he's a sneeze away from being Boba Fett. He was a bounty hunter. Din Djarin was a bounty hunter in the first episode. He was basically doing what Boba Fett does. And so he walks like kind of like a fine line, but he always held himself to this ideal and this creed. And now the creed isn't even what he thought it was anymore. He's basically got the symbol of leadership of Mandalore, and he doesn't even want it. The funniest part was Grogu's like, he puts Grogu down, and Grogu's holding on to his leg. And the one thing that makes me, R2 walks in, and it's like, kids just love R2. Like R2 sold him. Like that's all it took was bring R2-D2 in. I kind of see what you're saying, because it was very low key,
especially for a season finale.
It wasn't like season 1 season finale. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't. Yeah. There was a sense of danger and a rescue at the end, but there was nothing wrong with it, but it just wasn't like an epic kind of thing. I don't know if it needs to be. There's a lot of questions unanswered. The problem is that story came to an end. So it leaves a lot of questions. So it's like, okay, Grogu's future, because he's off with Luke now. So is that going to be explored on The Mandalorian? Is that going to be explored in like a cartoon? Are they going to do something different with that? How in is Mark Hamill? How interested is he in all this? There's the Darksaber thing, which, that issue. I don't want that to be something that goes through the whole, we can make Bo-Katan a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? It's just, the after credit scene, which I only caught after the second viewing. So you got Bib Fortuna takes over Jabba's palace, and in strolls Boba Fett, kills him, takes the throne. Oh, and Bib Fortuna really was enjoying that throne because he put on a couple pounds there. But
now we got Boba the Hutt.
I feel like this Boba thing, I think it's going to be a one-shot movie. See, this was my we talked about where we thought the with the Boba Fett, how he survived. What was that? You know what I'm saying? What what was the origin? I thought we were going to actually see this at the beginning of the season finale because they were going to have a 45-minute or an hour and a half show, and they were going to show that flashback of what happened. They're probably going to show it in this Boba Fett thing. You can't not address it. You can't just leave that unanswered, and you can't expect us to go look for it in a comic book or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They gotta clear that up. But I could deal with that. I could deal with a Boba Fett movie. I mean, that'd be great. I mean, that Boba Fett
movie over a show. I don't want another show of Stone.
No, it is. You're right. It's like two guys running around in armor. I understand that. Especially parallel shows. I thought the plan was going to be for him to kind of weave his way through all these other shows.
That's what I thought too.
I thought he was going to show up in Ahsoka, show up in these Rebel shows and everything. It was a good end to Grogu's story. I just thought it was going to be on a higher level than that, kicked up a little bit of a notch. Because the ship was practically empty, you know what I'm saying, besides the battle droids. So I can see how you see it was down a tone, but really, overall, I thought it was a great season. I loved that interpretation of Luke. I mean, that's the Luke we should have got. Yeah, I'm sure Mark was happy to be a part of that and everything, but all in all, a great show. I want to thank Khiim so much for being here. Khiim, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you taking your time with you being out of town and everything.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always glad to be here.